So I'm recording a video now for Tuesday. We're starting with the heart. There's 4 chambers of the heart. So the right atrium, the top right chamber. So let's say this is my heart, top right chamber. I don't know if it's opposite because it's my right. The top right chamber is called the right atrium. So the top is the atrium, the bottom is the ventricle. So we have the right atrium, top right chamber, receives the incoming blood. It is oxygenated. I'm sorry, it has poor oxygen. Then you have the left atrium, the top left chamber receives the oxygenated incoming blood. You have the right ventricle, the bottom right chamber, that pumps blood out the heart into the lungs. Then you have the left ventricle, the bottom left chamber, that pumps the oxygenated blood out the heart to the body. So the heart's right and left sides are separated by a wall called the septum, and each chamber has a valve which prevents blood from flowing in the wrong direction. When the atria relax while filling the blood, they contract simultaneously to pump blood into the ventricles on the respective sides. So the atrium sends blood into the then both ventricles contract together to pump blood to different parts of the body. So one ventricle to the lungs and one ventricle to the body. The right side of the heart collects the blood on its return from the rest of the body, and the blood entering the right side of the heart is low in oxygen. It sends oxygen everywhere, and then it comes back. And the right side of the atrium, it goes into the right. So then it goes from the top right just received the blood from the body. Then it goes into the right ventricle, which goes into the lungs. The lungs then send it to the left atrium, which goes into the left ventricle, which goes into the body, and then it goes back to the right atrium. In berachot 10a in the Talmud, it says, just as the Holy One, blessed be He, just as the Holy One fills the entire world, so too the soul fills the entire body. I just thought it was interesting, like the blood in the body, and then everything in physical, I feel, that I studied in biology, and then in the psyche, in psychology, I feel also has a correspondence in the spiritual, in the energetic, you would say, or yeah. Okay, so just as the Holy One just as the Holy One sees without being seen, so too does the soul see without being seen. Just as the just as the Holy Blessed One sustains the entire world, so too does the soul sustain the entire world. So in other words, now you have a piece. It's saying there is a soul. The soul itself is basically like, just as God is unseen, so too the soul sees without being seen. You can't see your soul, but the soul is watching. Just as the Holy Blessed One is sustaining the entire world, the soul sustains the body. Just as the Holy Blessed One is pure, so too the soul is pure. Just as the Holy Blessed One dwells in chambers within chambers, so too does the soul dwell in chambers within chambers. We have a tradition where we stand. Actually, I'm going to share something else first. In Sota Daf 42, Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Abba says, 4 classes of people will not greet the divine presence: cynics, flatterers, liars, and slanderers. How do we know? First source we have for the cynics, Hoshea 7:5. He draws his hand from the cynics. From the cynics. He takes his hand. For number 2, we have iyov 13:16, that a flatterer cannot come before him. So we have flatterer there. Then we have in the Psalms, he who speaks falsehood shall not dwell before my eyes. Those are the liars. And then we have another from the Psalms. It says, for you are not a God who has pleasure in wickedness. Evil shall not sojourn with you. This is the slanderers. Evil here refers to slanderers, as is evident from the continuation of the chapter in verse 10. For there is no sincerity in their mouth. Their inward part is a yawning gulf. Their throat is an open tomb. They make smooth their tongue. Okay, so in Shemona Esrei, which is it's the 18 benedictions, so 18 sort of blessings we make, or you would say we're blessing, we're asking. It's a tefillah. Tefillah is sort of like to bring down, in a way, we would say. We're becoming a receiver. And the Amidah is the standing prayer, where we stand, basically we're standing before God. So the first is Avos, the God of all generations. This is the fathers. The second is called Gevurot. It's God's power. The third is represented by resurrection, sanctification. By the way, it is 19. There was one added, but it's still called Shemona Esrei, 18. Okay, resurrection, sanctification, Kedusha. 4 is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. 5 is Teshuvah, repentance, or we would say return. Then we have 6, which is forgiveness, repentance. Say it's related to mercy. 7, we have redemption, fight for us. 8, we have healing, sickness. 9, we have blessing the year, abundance. 10, we have justice, righteousness. 11, subduing, crushing the wicked and enemies. 12, righteous, support and security. 13, Jerusalem, rebuilt. 14, salvation, deliverance. 15, hears our prayer, accepts us. 16, favor, sees and heeds our worship. 17, Zion, Sion, restores divine presence. And 18, not according to Zionists. This is, we've always studied. So Zionism is basically saying that the Jews should have a state, and it's Israel. The original Zionism is saying that the country, including Sion, which sort of means like the place, but also the frequency. Like when you say Mitzion, you mean out of this world, Mitzion, something that's beyond the worldness. So, most people don't understand that. So restores divine presence to Zion. Basically, out of this world, the supernatural becomes in the world. 18, thanksgiving, praise and gratitude. And 19, peace on the nation of Israel. Last but not least, this is related. So, for example, sorry, it's distracting. Someone heard an unpleasant noise. Okay. So money issues. I had to discover for myself, like, where are we blocking our blessings? So I chose money issues, but you could choose any of these, any of the 18 or 19. So example we gave was justice, subduing, crushing the wicked, salvation, here's our prayers, holiness, power. So wherever we could, their prayers, So I chose money, which was blessing the year, abundance, right? So my mother guilted me over pennies, even items that were required for school, like supplies, uniform, tuition. My father also told my mother that we are her kids, and aside for the rent he paid for the apartment, she has to pay for the rest of our expenses. Now, granted, a 3-bedroom apartment is more expensive than a 1-bedroom, which he would have lived in on his own probably, or a 2-bedroom he lived in later. Now he lives in a 1-bedroom. Still, room and just covering the rent is not as much as it takes to raise children, to have a family. I remember I have to beg my mother for little money, which she will give only like 100 a few times a year. But after I beg in advance of holidays, I felt that I wasn't able to work. I didn't know how to maintain motivation for earning the income through my labor or service employment. I didn't feel like I could keep a job. I had to ask even for charity at times. I felt that I burnt bridges because people didn't want to give money to me when I asked, and I felt they were lying to me, or that I couldn't do memberships or subscriptions because I never know when or if the money's coming from, and being nervous that my name or picture comes up for someone they feel I'm a burden or they want to avoid me, or even fear of seeing the person that I'd asked for charity from in person, or not knowing where I'd get the money when I had to move. So I wrote this maybe, say 3/4 of a year ago. So, you could always tap into this, even if you feel you're like in the next level. You could always tap in and see where the different parts, and just realizing that, not trying to deny, but actually bringing to light the aspects, actually is a way to break the habits, to get rid of it. Once you see the tendency, you are able to now start having free choice. Once you see the unconscious, once the unconscious becomes conscious, it no longer can run the show, because the consciousness now is witnessing it from a bigger perspective. Anyway, that's all for now. All the best. Bye.